Defiant of labels or the desire to fit in is what adds to the appeal and standout quality of our guest today. He's got a very unique story. Sometimes building a community takes an artist away from his home to find connections in foreign lands. Mike Borgia is an Italian-American singer-songwriter and multi-instrumentalist from New York, best known for his dynamic 5-octave vocal range and unique melodic approach. Mike jumps seamlessly between genres of blues, alternative rock, and indie. With a large back catalog of releases, Mike's sound is a captivating example of musicianship that translates effortlessly into a mesmerizing and dynamic live experience, and that's what we're all about, supporting live music. He's influenced by the likes of Chris Whitley, Leadbelly, Howlin' Wolf, and Chris Cornell. Mike Borgia has crafted a signature style that has received high praise. His uniqueness stems from his history in post and hardcore metal and the discovery of what he is today. And that's what you're going to discover in today's episode. Come, let's check it out. Hey, everybody. I'm so excited about tonight's guest. Like many of my guests, I meet them on the internet. It's kind of like speed dating, but not. And I was really enticed by Mike Borgia's music. He is a New York City guy, and I want to welcome Mike Borgia to the Long Island Sound podcast. Welcome, Mike. Good to have you.
Thanks, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So, hey, I've listened to your music. It's really great. Tell me something. How did you come about doing music? When did it start early for you? Musical family? Where did it really key in for you?
Yeah, it was really early, actually. I didn't have I have an artistic family, but not necessarily musical. My dad actually had a great voice. He just never pursued it. So he would sing in the car, and, make his own funny songs, things like that. And I'm pretty much the musical one in the family, which is interesting. Yeah, I'm one of the only ones that I could really think of who is. And I have quite a large Italian family. So I have aunts and uncles who are musical, but again, my grandmother actually was an opera singer when she was younger. So I take that back. Yeah. So she's gone. She's long gone now, but yeah, she was really great, and she retired from that. So that's where I land.
I just got a comment because I'm not of Italian heritage, but it amazes me how many people in music have that Italian background, and singing is so much a part of their life that it's really kind of a beautiful thing. And the fact that your grandmother was an opera singer. I had an opera singer who lived across the street from me, a young girl. And man, the years of training, it was just kind of amazing, the dedication and what they had to put into their art. Anyway, just a quick comment on that.
Yeah, no, indeed. Yeah, when I was a kid, I didn't know I had the vocal ability, that natural ability to sing. Before that, I just was practicing my guitar 4 hours a day. Wow. Sometimes longer. I would sing to songs that I really liked, before I knew I could write music. And I did that all in my room. I spent a lot of time in my room because I was really a creative kid, and I wasn't like a lot of my friends. And even though I had friends, I didn't really have anything in common with them.
Sure.
I guess I was more into reading books and intellectualizing things, and I didn't like video games or playing the normal adolescent kid shit. I just was really into things that were more detailed and cerebral and physical. I was a very athletic person growing up, but yes, I never related to people. And even today, I don't really relate musically to most musicians. It's always been a challenge, but I chose to be myself individually. And that sometimes comes with an abstraction that either people get or they don't. In the end of it all, you find your fan base and it develops how it develops. And it's all about the ride, really, for me, not the fame and fortune, that so many people chase.
Right. So would you categorize yourself as an introvert per se? And are you pretty much a solo practitioner when you go out? Or do you play with the band, or do you mix it up with other people?
I used to. When I was younger, I played in a band, and that's when I played in a progressive metal band.
Okay.
And these guys were a little older than me, and my guitar shredding skills at the time were up there. So it was kind of cool to see a young guy, 13-year-old, shredding guitar solos and playing these original music riffs. Okay. So that was part of it. And I had a really great front man as a singer at the time. Our band was really good, and we're still friends today. We don't.
Oh, it's nice.
Yeah, I wish we still played together because I really enjoyed that band a lot. But I got into an alternative rock band after that. There was a guy that found me rehearsing with these guys, and they discovered my voice. These metal guys discovered my voice, and my family said, you need to use it. So he pushed me into singing. And then we just did mostly original music. We ended up doing covers that I was not happy about at all. I wanted to be a purist and original songwriter. But the songs we did were, very difficult, from Steve Perry to Chris Cornell, like songs that most singers could not do, because the founder of this band that I was in early on said, no, I think you could really handle these songs. You should try. When I did, audiences started getting bigger and talking about listening to this kid's voice and the range that he has and all that stuff. So that to me was like, we're playing original music with a few covers peppered in. But I somehow realized that was not the way to go. Although acts that we listened to, they all played covers at some point, and they still put them on their albums. To me, I'm just a purist, and I have songwriting ability that I know I have the only thing that sets me apart from them is the marketing dollars to get it to the masses, There's lots of people who can write songs just as well as the artists that we know and love. So I've stayed a purist for all these years, and that's where, no, I'm not an introvert, but musically I am, because I don't, because I don't really I relate to a lot of people, but I don't, because the way I approach blues tends to confuse people. The way I approach rock and roll or Americana confuses people. Tends to be only the musical minded who just get it. They get it.
Right.
Yeah. So that's it.
Hey, I'm really intrigued by the fact that you said you got pushed into vocals. Okay. So that begs the question from me. Did you pursue formal training on your vocals? Did you know how to warm up? And, do you have this natural range, or is it something that it took a while to get to?
Yeah, no, I didn't have any vocal training. I had this guy, Donnie Wilson, was a guitar player, a teacher. He played for a lot of big 80s bands. He's a side guy, whatever. Great guitar player. My sister knew him. He just helped me make sense out of it, because I'm a self-taught guitar player. So he's like, just make sense out of some of these scales and what you're doing so you can expand and know, at least what it is. He goes, hey, man, I heard you could sing. I go, well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not confident. I don't think I can. And, you're not that confident as a kid. So a lot of people, including him, said, why don't you just sing this melody on guitar? Literally do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. That's it. So sing that stuff. And he just discovered I had a natural voice, and he could hear me breathe and exhale when I sang. He's like, you just have this natural ability to do it the way you're supposed to do it, to not hurt your voice. And I had a friend who was a vocal teacher. Some vocal teachers aren't really good singers, but they know how to teach other people how to sing. So she just said to me, just don't push out the notes so hard. Just do it naturally, and it'll resonate the way it's supposed to. If you push too hard, you squeeze the vocal cord and you can't project as loud as you want. So she gave me pointers later on in life. But other than that, no, I never had any vocal training. Isn't that crazy?
Man, I hate you guys.
You know who talked me out of it? I was going to. So a few people, I went to music school for a little while. I studied classical music. I wanted to learn how to read music because I had no idea. So I studied classical music for 2 years, majored in guitar, minored in percussion and piano. And it was really great. I met some friends for life in music school. And
where did you go?
To Syracuse Community College in Syracuse, New York.
Okay, great.
One of the best schools in the country was there. So for music, so I was really grateful and had a lot of great instructors. So their point was, if you train your voice to sing a certain way, then you lose your style. Don't do that. If you already have the natural ability, just do it and listen to a few pointers so you don't kill your voice and you don't oversing, that kind of stuff. So that's all I had in terms of training, and I just carried that with me.
It's amazing. I'm quite the opposite. When I started singing later in life as an older man, you try to sing like the artist that you like. And I didn't even realize that, there's certain keys that I should be my range to sing. And it took my wife down in the kitchen yelling up to me, goes, you're not Neil Young. You're not Bob Dylan. Don't do it,
Yeah, don't try.
And then I finally spoke to a good friend, Steve Martino, because no, you're really in the E flat range, and you want to stick there and move your capo down in the guitar to make it happen. And man, I wish I knew that 20 years ago.
Yeah. There's a lot of people, if you're more of a novelty performer and you just do covers of other people, some people do that really well. I knew a guy in Liverpool, England, because I lived there for a little while. He was just a
Oh wow.
he was a street musician, and he did a lot of Beatles and Britpop covers, but he did them extremely well. So I'd throw a couple of pound coins in his box a lot. But he made a very good living doing it for many years. He's a young guy, and yeah, he goes, "I'm just not a songwriter, but I love the music of these artists, and he pays his bills," and that was just what he decided to do.
Yeah, that brings up that whole, cover band. That's the time of the tribute band, as my friend says. And there's a certain business aspect of it. It brings people in who like, Journey like this or like that. But it, to me, I want to hear your interpretation of a song, whether it's your original song or somebody else's, because I can play it on the radio or Spotify, whatever. But I am so I want to see the live performance, the connection with the audience. Tell me about Mike. Tell me about the first time you played out in front of people and really got paid for it, I guess.
Yeah, I was these guys that I played with. We went on a 10-day tour. I snuck out of my mother's house to do it in the summer. And I didn't
Right.
tell her we didn't have cell phones then. So my older sister went with me for part of it. She goes, "Well, you better call mom because she's going to kill you." 3 days. I called her, "Mom, I'm on tour. I'll be home. I didn't do drugs or alcohol, and I still do not." So she didn't
Good for
worry
you.
about me there. But I should have told them. I just thought they wouldn't let me go. So we went on there. I made $50 first show. Then I made another
Okay.
$50 the next show. And there was always a good enough amount of people. Some shows were bigger than others, but I just was along for the ride. I thought it was really great. And so at age 13 is when I got a chance to do that. And ever
Wow.
since then, I talked about, I got into that alternative rock band. We did some regional touring. They didn't want to go in the direction I wanted to. So I got into a band that was a band called Samsara that was later called Tread. It's on my website, the history, but I was in some post-hardcore bands that were doing well, starting to develop in the hardcore and post-hardcore scene in New York. And, we had some deals on the table and the band was doing well. And then members just are not committed in the same way. And
Wow.
from my lawyer to my producer to people involved in me said, "Mike, you're the songwriter. You do not need a band. This is not working out for you. They don't have the work ethic you have, and you're a little too driven for the guys you're playing with. So you're
Interesting.
not going to be able to keep a band together. And the industry is changing, so you may get your record shelved. So keep that in mind. So be self-sufficient as much as you can." And I had a lawyer at the time that told me very valuable advice about signing a record contract. Regardless of what money they give you, they may never release the record. And it could affect
Wow.
your likeness and your ability to do stuff in the future. So I love being independent and doing what I wanted to do on my own. And the short story of this, I had a lot of naysayers and people that wanted to squash my ability to succeed. There may be some envy and jealousy associated with that. And
Sure.
yeah, so my family and my sisters all said, just you cannot quit because you have these people around you not committed. If you have the ability to do it on your own, you should just do it on your own. So I've mostly been a solo artist past those early days of playing in a band until about 2012, somewhere around there. I got a piece called The Problems, which was a big sounding sort of like just a wall of sound of blues rock and roll.
Okay.
There's just three of us. And my bass player was sick with Hodgkin's lymphoma. And so we had a good run. He passed away. My drummer and I finished the remainder of the tour ourselves. It was successful. It was fun, but it was very sad. After that point, I thought, I don't think I'm going to do The Problems anymore. I think I'm done with that. Just going to keep doing Mike Borgia. And I just play some of the Problem songs acoustically and it works. But because of those dynamics and how difficult it is in this area of music, the way music is now, how people are more content creators and not live performers.
Right.
Yeah, it's just more feasible, cost effective, and momentous to be able to do what I do alone. I'd love to get in a band again, but I don't know anyone. Even the young kids are all content creators now. They're all just getting on Instagram and YouTube, and it's fine if you want to be a content creator. But I'm a touring artist. I'm a human performer.
Right.
I need to be in front of people. I can't.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you bring that up. There is that yin and yang, and I have some good friends who rather not tell you about how great they are playing. They say, it's like sex. I don't want to talk to you about how
Yeah,
let's
you just
let's
want
do
to
the
do it.
action
Yeah.
and enjoy it, And there's almost a generational divide, I think, with that. And that's the real tug of war in that, those who have the talent yet are being forced to, hey, you got to be a creator and you got to get Instagram following and this and that to prove your worth out there. And, it kind of kills me. And we're of the same wheelhouse, I believe. It's the live experience. Having said that, what are some of your favorite haunts or places to play, venues to play?
When they existed, I could barely name any in New York. I live in Westchester now. I just have
Right.
a space down here in Greenwich Village, but it's, I don't even know. I mean, when venues were around, it was everything from, Coney Island High to the Continental to CBGB's, the gallery next door to it. I did the Cake Shop, the Living Room, Rockwood Music Hall for a long time had a nice,
Right.
gone but not forgotten. Yeah, so Arlene Grocery used to have something special.
Right. Great sound there too.
Yeah, now it's
Yeah.
I play an art gallery in Westchester, and I
Okay.
don't play the States very much at all anymore. I mostly play in
Mhm.
Europe and through England and in different parts of the world. So I've been doing that since 2000, and I'm appreciated there. And America just really never responded to me the way I had some moments in my post-hardcore days that were working for me. Yeah, since then, I haven't really had any interest in the States personally, and audiences really have not responded. It's strange, but just the way it is.
Yeah, it's so interesting. We interviewed a gentleman from Long Island who goes to the UK all the time. He's known as the Hitman Blues Band, and he's well accepted. He goes to the UK and does like a whole summer tour there.
Yeah.
For like 20 years, and he really loves it. I find it so interesting, the audiences in Europe. And who I was just talking to? I was just talking to Scarlett Rivera, who's Bob Dylan's violinist, and we talked about, one of her favorite places to play is in Italy. Funny
Yeah, I
enough,
was
right?
watching that interview. Yeah. Yeah. For what she does, Italy responds to that. There's not much of a rock element in Italy. There's one metal club in Milan called Headbangers. That's what it's called.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's not much. There's an underground clubs in southern Milan that's closed down since. But what she's doing makes sense, right? You have to find.
Sure.
You could complain about where the industry's gone, and some of these older artists are complaining about what they can't do instead of looking at it. It's like you have to focus on what's possible. I just keep
Right.
knocking on doors and turning door handles. I'm confident and I'm a good enough player to make people happy if I'm given the chance. I believe in myself, so I don't complain. I just say, well, what can I do? What am I able to do? And I'm just going to do that.
So, Mike, tell me this: how did you go from being an American, being in the United States, and making those connections, and then continuing it? Was it just nose to the grindstone type of thing?
It's about working smarter, not working harder. Americans are taught a lot of falsities, right? And a big one is
Okay.
work hard and you will succeed and you'll make money if you work hard. That's not true. It's about
Right.
working smart, being diligent and knowing your limitations, pushing the boundaries at a rate when something's going to crack, right? You have to pay attention to what's going on. I was just strategic, Yeah, sure. If a door closed, I'd keep knocking a few times, but I would keep, as that door is closed, I'm moving over here to see what's open on this side. So, but when I got involved in touring overseas, there was a music website called Pure Volume. And if you don't know about it and you're younger, it's because you didn't have your ear to the scene when music was popping. You weren't part of the music culture if you didn't know Pure Volume.
Okay.
In that era, because they were around for the 90s up to the mid 2000s. So I put a song called Angels Falling Over on the front page of it. That's when I did a second solo record. And it was really about the sexual misconduct in the Catholic Church because I'm an atheist guy, right? So,
Okay.
but I got hit up with Christian labels, like thinking that it was a religious song. And I'm like, no, you really got to hear. Here's the lyrics. And here's what the
listen up. Yeah.
Yeah. My friend said, you should fake it. They'll give you money. I'm like, no, I'm not faking it.
You got to be true.
Yeah. So Pure Volume was a place for music fans to house a profile and listen to the artists that Kevin Lyman and punk bands and all the emo and post-hardcore bands were putting their music on. And so those record labels and those festival people partnered with Pure Volume to get all the artists on there so the listener audience could have a place to go listen to all their favorite bands and talk to each other about it. So it was the
Okay.
ultimate music social media website. And no one's been able to do it that well since. And so, yeah, it was on there, the front page, and they started charging for it later, and viably so, $350, $400, got you 7 days of full
Right.
exposure. Hundreds of thousands of people listening and engaging with me. Red Dragon
Wow.
FM from Cardiff, South Wales. My friend Gavin Smith worked for them. He said, "Hey, mate, would you like to come over the pond?" I said, "Yeah, man, that'd be great. What do you have in mind?" "Well, you could play Wales first in Cardiff. There's this place called the Welsh Club or Club Ifrebach. I could put you
Okay.
on a couple of bands and you know these guys. Oh yeah, I know this band. I know this band. Cool." And then so they put me on there. Next thing you know, the show sells out. Uh,
Wow.
and then from there, promoters were asking me to do more shows, thanks to Gavin. And Gavin would come and sell my merch and help me out the process. They played me on that radio station, although their license was not connecting, so they couldn't give me any money for it. They said, "If that's okay with you, we'll push the crap out of it." And then the ball just kept rolling, one after the other, show after show, region after region. That lasted for a good 12 years. And then by 2012, after the financial crisis, by 2012, the smartphone came. So the smartphone allowed you to have everything in the palm of your hand. It single-handedly destroyed, imploded the music business. Pure Volume started to fizzle out. MySpace was really doing a good thing, but
Yeah.
the wrong people got a hold of it. It was a disaster unnecessarily. So that's MySpace helped me out a lot in that regard too. So, but I think it was MySpace, then Pure Volume. I think that's how it went. Pure Volume was like, "Yeah, we can do it much better."
Gotcha.
And they made a culture out of it. So that's really how it happened. So for me, I always tell people, I don't know a single artist that I've talked to now who's younger than me that says they want a career. I don't
Interesting.
anyone saying I want to put out records to go on tour and play in front of people. And if they do, they're not looking to earn it. They're looking to gain access to a viral moment and get their 15 seconds of fame.
Right.
That to tell you there, you've got to earn it. And that has to do with playing local, regionally, building, finding your tribe, people that believe in you, right? That just want to help you. They're so inspired by your music. They just want to do that. In the heydays of when things were going really well for me at that level, I was happy. And when that went away, I said, you know what? That was a moment in my life. I'm not a person who relives nostalgia because I think that courage to find new opportunities and create new memories, that's a level of courage that a lot of people don't have. And I just don't care about nostalgia. I loved a lot of the bands I listened to growing up, but I don't need to keep going back there. If they're on new material, which some of them are, I listen to their new songs. It's just not me. I'm not a person who needs to relive nostalgia and feel, compelled to do that.
You know what? You bring up, Mike, a couple of good points that kind of resonated with me. One, the people that and your family, your core family, who encouraged you despite the naysayers, and we're all going to run into naysayers in our life. And then you mentioned the word tribe. Now, tribe, community, how do you stay connected with your community to keep things fresh and alive, to let them know what Mike Borgia is doing today? What's your method?
Well, there's a lot. You use the standard email list, which is really coming and going if you think about that, because they have other artists that they're fans of. You imagine the influx of emails you get with that. That's not effective. So probably twice a year I use that because of that. What happens with that social media, if you're consistent with it, they know they can see the feed whenever they want. They don't feel so pressured by a hard sell. But I use Bands in Town and Songkick. Bands in Town is a direct hit to concert goers, and it'll only alert them when you're in their market. Relevancy is important. If you're not doing something to a fan at a relevant point, you're just spamming the shit out of them. And music fans don't want to be sold to. They just don't. They don't want to be sold to. So I'm just a purist in that way. I'm going to give you 110% of my show, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. You just need to tell your friends, and that's it.
Right.
Um,
You brought up a couple of really good resources. By the way, I want to remind anyone who's listening or watching this podcast, hey, please comment in the comments sections. Tell us what you think. Hey, if you have other ideas of how to reach out and keep the tribe connected to an artist, we'd love to hear it. And I always love feedback. It's amazing. And it's amazing that we get feedback here from around the world. And I'm so excited that you work Europe as far as because that's gonna that's gonna bring people from Europe. I'll be very frank.
Yeah, yeah,
With
yeah.
that. So I got to ask you this because this came to mind too. Do you believe Europeans have a certain romantic feeling about a blues guy from the United States? Does that
I think
fit
it
in,
goes
or
both
am I
ways. I think it goes both
okay?
ways. Not just Europeans having Italian American being in their country. I think it's also the other way around. I think, yeah, I think they love the excitement of that. It also comes from literacy, education.
Okay,
America struggles with education and culture and worldly knowledge.
right.
When a lot of times artists tend to cross pollinate overseas really well with educated people if they're educated themselves. I always made it a point to be educated on what other people are doing around the world and not so focused on America, so to speak. And I think for me, Europe works better because I always felt I was born in the wrong country. Not that I don't meet great people like yourself in the country I live.
No, I
Of
appreciate
course,
that.
of course I do, and I hang on to that. But I don't align with most ideologies of American citizens, most, unless obviously on the artistic level, sure. But even then, I struggle with that. So instead of complaining about what I don't align with, find your tribe. If people intellectually align with you, then focus on that. And then when opportunity knocks in the state that you live or the country you live, then you embrace it when it's possible.
So, Mike, tell me this. Tell me about the different countries you've played in, and give me your impression about the audiences in those different countries, if you care to do so.
Well, generally more aware, more self-aware, more cultured, more educated, more honest
Okay.
and polite. Yeah. And not focused how popular is this artist? Because if they're popular enough, then I'll tell my friends about them. Whereas I do a European tour every year. Last year I did the whole of Europe and then I was in South Africa in
Oh,
September.
wow.
Yeah, for 10 days. And it was successful and wonderful. And the people there are just incredible and amazing and genuine. And their response to my work was wonderful and engaging. And it made me want to ask them about themselves. They just made me they compelled me to ask them. I'm like, we already know about me. I'm here on the stage performing from you, performing
Right.
for you. You know where I came from and how I got started and what brings you here. And do you like coming to this venue? And what's your favorite music, whatever it is. And I find when you engage with them in that way, they like that more, than it being all about the artist because they're there for you. They've supported you already. Now they want to know
Right.
you as a human being, as a person. So that's the way I usually gauge things. But Europeans on average tend to be more cultured, more self-aware, more educated, more polite. Yeah, and that's just been my experience.
Yeah, what's interesting is talking about the connections that you make with your audience. Certainly when you're performing, you have that back and forth, that exchange of energy that can kind of feed a performance per se. But I've also found, and maybe this is kind of self-serving for the podcast, is when I've gone out, what's driven me with this podcast has been the curiosity of, hey, I want to know about that guy or that girl. Why do they do what they do? How do they do what they do?
Yeah.
Because honestly, I'm enamored by people who've woodshedded their craft, people who have talent and built on it, and the way they connect with people. I want to know a little bit more about them. And, when I get the feeling that when I'm listening to an artist like yourself, and I feel like they're singing or they're playing directly for me and invited me into their virtual living room, man, that's the best. I've had such a great connection and it's
Yeah.
made my night, made my day.
I think people like you who do these podcasts are true music fans. And for me, I wasn't focused on, and this is the very un-American thing of me, by saying, I decided to do this not because you had millions of followers and I'm looking for that and what's his status and how can he help me? I'm looking at it like this is a person who's a fan of music, right? This is a person who puts the effort and energy into getting to know the artist and learning something about himself each time he does this. I don't care how
Right.
many followers he has. I'm going to do this podcast. And that's just that's how I view everything. I don't look at people and how popular they are or perceived to be. I look at how we can have a human connection together and learn something from each other. That's where I fall here.
Yeah, it's the never. I spoke with a friend of mine, Diane Lotney, who's this great singer. She was a backup singer for Dr. John. It's just really great gal, and she has such great insight on the music industry. We were talking about this particular artist, and she goes, "You know what? He needs to find people who love music and are music lovers that will listen. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and that doesn't mean they're not being entertained, but ones who can really have that appreciation of everything that goes into becoming an artist and delivering original music. It's
Yeah.
just
There's a difference between an artist and a performer. An artist is one
agreed.
who creates their own voice, right? Entertainer is someone who plays other people's music well or not well, right? Doesn't matter. It's all perception, right?
Yep, yep.
There's a difference, and an artist focuses on the journey, the creative journey, because at least for me, art is part of healing. The way the turmoil I see in the world, the way I see people treat each other, even the country I live, I have so many thoughts about it that set me uneasy. I use music as a way to deal with that, and then I talk to people who understand the language, and I get a good perspective, and I feel better. And I think whether you're a painter or a sculptor or a musician, it's our duty as human beings to be creative and share art. And sure, if it's monetizable and it makes sense, of course, why not find some value in it? But it's important to know your value as an artist. I know my value, and I know what I'm willing to compromise for that. And the compromise is I don't want to compromise not being in front of people, right? Not about playing for free, but it's about creating a comfortable dynamic for if people can't afford the ticket. How much you got? All right. Oh, you have
Right.
nothing, but you really like the music? Okay. Come in.
Come on in.
Yeah, come in. But eventually you're going to get there. You're going to make things are going to get better in your life, and you'll be able to support what I do. But for now, so you have to find a balance, and that's like everything. Everything needs balance. And this perception of rock stardom and popularity, all of it's fake. It's all fake.
Yep.
The numbers that people have online, views don't mean anything. It's the engagement of listeners that matter. Like this is live engagement. This matters more than the views. And I anticipate you'll get a good amount of views when I share this. However,
I appreciate that.
I want to see who's willing to engage with it. That means more to me, because that's what I mean by fake. Like there's a lot of people with millions of followers, and you look at their engagement and then you go to their live show and there's no one there.
Right.
Or they're not performing live at all. So what are they doing with that 500,000 followers? I mean, this is the thing. This is my point. We're human beings. The computer is the computer. It has its value. We use it for recording. We use it for connecting with friends from abroad, like we're doing. We use it for taking wonderful pictures and recording video of moments. It's all valuable. And then we have to put that down. And this is where my European friends, we get along really well. When we're in the moment, our phones are away. It's not, we're not any of that. Yeah. We're not at a concert doing this, holding up our phones, living life through our phone. We're not doing that, and that
you're being present. You're being present to the moment, right?
Yeah.
And that's, it's so interesting. And I've said this before, social media has made us less social. And I think there's, at least for me, there is this urge and this need to be social and to engage. And as I get older, it's like, pay attention, be present to people when you're talking to them, look them in the eye. I'm not a young guy, but I'm still trying to get that into the brain box up here, because that's what it's all about. Exactly what you said. It's about connection. But I also want to talk about one other thing. You brought up career. There are musicians out there who don't think about the music career or path that they're on. I think a lot of them are traveling on hope. And someone very smarter than me said, hey, hope is not a strategy, Steve. You have to be purposeful in what you do. Having said that, I'll get off my soapbox. Is where do you see yourself, the direction of your music career, Mike? Where do you see yourself going? And I should ask, what are your hopes? But what direction do you want to take Mike Borgia in his career?
My direction has been the same. The trajectory is I have a large catalog of recorded music, and I'm consistently inspired to write more. Week after week, month after month, year after year. So my goal is to just always find new ways to reach audiences. But because I do that for the purpose of using the language, a universal language of music, to to connect with people around the world and make real human connections with them. I want to be in front of them in person. It's nice if they listen online. So that's been my trajectory. I have 21 albums out. My latest album I just put out, yeah, called Perfume in Plastic. I just put it out. It's on vinyl. Some of the songs are online, but the whole album can only be found on my website or on Bandcamp. That's it, digitally.
Nice.
Yeah, but the vinyl records have been good for me. You know, they help me merchandise and make meaningful connections. Limited runs of copies I do, they're signature, and once they're gone, they're never to be printed again. So I love all that specialty stuff. Yeah, so it's really about connecting with people on this level and being able to use my particular love language in music and get it out to as many people as I can. But it's not the quantity, it's the quality, right?
Okay.
So I do a lot of private concerts now, a lot of weird venues, but people are in the present moment. No one's on their phones. They're just not. Whether I'm having to speak Italian or French or Portuguese, you know, I find the means to do that and to be able to talk to them in their language and the musical language. Because even if they don't know what you're singing about in English, they understand it through the expression that you're giving to them.
You know, it's amazing. I traveled internationally in business for a little while, and I was so keen on appreciating the culture, the foreign culture, literally a culture that I was not used to doing business in. And I did my homework, and especially in the Far East, there's certain things you could do by mistake and offend the crap out of people. But I think, you know, when you're making that connection with people and they see the effort, even though you might not be perfect at it, whether it's speaking some words in their language, and if you're fluent, great, you know, man, that goes so far in building bridges. And I think that's what the world needs right now. You know, peace advocates going out with healing music.
Well, because it comes down to, would you want me coming in your house when you have everything arranged the way you want it? And because I'm used to having it another way, I just come in and just decide, I'm going to move your cup of dishes around however I want. I'm going to change the blanket on your couch to how I want it.
Right.
That's the entitlement of American culture, wanting everything to be how they want it when they go abroad. Well, you know, if I still in Italy or France and I see an American tourist, I'm like, I go the other way. Because the first thing we're trying to do is they're looking for what they have in their hometown in another country. And I'm like, these people in this country love where they live. And they're like, why don't you want to absorb our culture? Isn't that why you're here? So when that's how we can bridge the gap. When I come into Delta's country, when I was in Portugal this year, I did 3 nights there, 2 in Lisbon, 1 in Porto. Each night was an amazingly profound, beautiful, well-attended evening of people who varying dialects of Portuguese and some English and even some French. And they were amazing because they appreciated the fact that I made the efforts, language efforts, that I indulged in the culture, that I asked them questions about where they live and what they do. And now they they know that I'm genuine. It's like, why are you here? Just to self-serve and take some money and play from somebody's venue. And that's, if they perceive that, they're not going to respond to you very well.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
Great. So where can people listening and watching, where can they see you next in the next few months, Mike?
Well, I'm planning another tour in Europe for July, and then back out to South Africa in the fall. But anything locally, mostly what I'm doing is in Westchester. I host monthly events on Saturdays at the Upstream Gallery in Hastings on Hudson.
Okay, sure.
So all I'm really doing in America is that type of stuff. I bring on an original artist and I host them. I play a few songs. I talk about them. I talk about the art on the walls. That's absolutely phenomenal. And then we went to a showcase with that particular artist, and I do that once a month. But I'm also hosting on June 4th, the Rivertown Arts Festival, a music festival. And that's where artists are all around Westchester and the Hudson Valley performing multitude of different venues and spaces and present their original music. And it's year over year, it's been really great. So I'm hosting the one at Upstream Gallery this year and performing at it. That's really, I don't think I'll ever play or won't play until I see something that strikes me as interesting in New York City. Probably not in the foreseeable future, or there's no plans to do that.
I understand. Hey, I just want to remind everybody that everything that Mike is talking about, the links are going to be in the description below. I tell you, this has been a fascinating time with you, Mike.
Thanks,
I
man.
feel like a fire hose of information is coming my way. I really appreciate, a friend told me long ago, he was volunteering for something and some baseball coach said, the guy's like, oh, it's nothing. And he said, wait a second. He said, Bob, he said, you can count the money you have in your bank, what you own. You can never count for the time you have left. And Mike Borgia, the fact that you gave me your time and we've made this connection, and I think we've made connection with a lot more people out in the stratosphere, is really, really something I appreciate.
Yeah, likewise. Likewise. Yeah, I'm easy to find. Just Google my name. You'll find me like that.
All right. Hey, I look forward to having you back. I really want to hear about, in the fall when you come back from the tours abroad. I'm so intrigued by that experience, and I'd really like to expand upon that. So,
Oh, yeah, there's a lot to tell. I've been to 100 countries around the world, so there's a lot to talk about. Yeah.
sounds great, Mike. I really appreciate you being on the show.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me. We'll talk soon.
All right, brother. And as I say to everybody, be generous with your joy, keep your spirits high, and let the music, like Mike Borgia around the world, 100 countries, take you on a journey. Be well, everybody.